Hi everyone, Frank here for Learning Media Skills. And in today's lesson, we're going to talk about my journey from a PC to the Mac platform. For the last 30 years, I've been a PC guy. I've been promoting PC for video editing and media production. But about 9 months ago, I finally made the switch from PC to Mac. And so in this video, we're going to talk about the reasons why I switched, as well as some of the things that I ran into in my transition from the PC to the Mac that might help you either make the decision yourself as to what you would want to do, because I kind of think that there's a lot of you out there that are kind of thinking about maybe making that switch now with all of the new Apple technology, the M1 chips, making it so much better for video editing that you might be thinking about these things as well. And so I just want to talk about my journey and share with you some of the things that I ran into and whether or not I have any regrets for making that switch. Let's jump into it now. Well, it's been a while since I've posted a video here. I think actually about a year now. And in that year, a lot has changed. And that's evidenced in one way by the Mac that's sitting on my desk, as well as the MacBook Pro that I have. Of course, I've always had an iPhone, but the Mac for video editing is new for me. And so I want to talk about that. Why did I switch? Have I always been a PC guy? For the most part, I would have to say yes. For the last 30 some years, I've been a PC guy, even though I'm a video editor and video producer. A lot of times people seem to be shocked when they find out that I was using a PC to do media production. Somehow, I think it's because the Apple folk have been very good in their advertising, and people just have this general idea that if you're doing media, you must be using a Mac. I always told people, and this was true for many years, there's a lot more options on the PC for video editing specifically, but media production in general. There's so many more programs available, so many more options. And in many ways, it was cheaper, faster than what the Macs were able to do in most cases. Sometimes they'd release a new product, but within a month or two, the PC platforms had caught up. And for a while there was really only one software program to edit videos, Final Cut Pro, their own software. And on the PC, there's so many options. And so I always told people that, Macs are great. They're beautiful, wonderfully designed, just beautiful bevel edges, just a beautiful logo. But I just wasn't willing to pay an extra $2,000, $3,000 for that beautiful logo. And people were always a little bit taken aback when I would explain that and that there were more options on the PC. But I believe we have reached a point where things have changed. Right now, my PC platform, still have it, hardly ever gets turned on anymore, still have it. It's about $6,000 that I have into that box. I call it a box. Actually, I call it the beast. It's so big and heavy. I feel I strain my back almost when I have to lift it up. It's got so much in it. So it's about $6,000 that I have into that. And I ran into this iMac 24 in an Apple store about 9 months ago. And I'm looking at it. First of all, I'm attracted by the beautiful Retina screen, right? I'm just kind of drawn in as to how amazing that Retina screen looks. And I'm looking then around for the rest of the computer, and it's only then that I realized that the computer is actually inside the screen. And I compare this screen to the big box that I have under my desk for my PC platform, the Beast. And doing a little research on it, I discovered that even though this is the computer, that it actually outperforms the PC that I had, the beast. Found it a little difficult to believe, but I decided to give it a try. So I brought one of these iMac 24 computers home and fired it up. And sure enough, it actually did outperform my $7,000 computer that I had, the PC computer. Specifically in decoding some of the latest video codecs. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Of course, for doing most computer tasks, the PC is perfectly fine even today. There's just no problem with it. The only thing I was finding frustrating was that as I began to work with new video codecs, even coming from simple products like my drone or my GoPro or my phone, if I wanted to set it to the highest settings, and using some of the new codecs, my PC just wasn't able to play them in real time anymore. It wouldn't play them without stuttering. In fact, some of the GoPro footage, it hardly would play it at all. And some of the new Canon cameras, it just wouldn't play the codec. And I've always found it just a little bit confusing and frustrating, because how is it that my $500 GoPro can play back this codec, this H.265 codec, in real time without any stuttering, smooth playback? How can my $500 GoPro do that and my $7,000 PC can't, even with the latest and greatest $2,000 video card installed in it? What's going on? Is it a licensing issue? Has Intel and some of the other products that go with the PC just not want to pay the license fees for some of these codes? I don't know. I haven't researched that. But for some reason, it just was not playing the video that I was filming with. And I find it a little bit frustrating when I try and edit and the video doesn't play. I've always wanted that real-time experience when I'm editing video. Sure, people say, oh, just use proxies or change the resolution of the software monitor, your video monitor on in the software. You can change the resolution and be able to see it in real time. But I don't like doing that. I want to see the full product working in real time. That's the way I like to edit. I don't want to have to take the extra step to work with proxies. And Apple was promising that it would play these H.265 video codecs. And sure enough, when I fired it up and started bringing in some of my troublesome video that I was working with on the PC, I found that it played it fine. Now, just a little caveat, it does help to have your video on one of these fast SD drives. This particular disk, SanDisk, comes in anywhere from 1 terabyte, I think up to 4 terabytes now. You plug this into your Thunderbolt port, and it has transfer speeds up to 1,000 megabytes per second. No more need for a RAID array when you're editing even high-end video, 4K, in some of these new codecs. In fact, the MacBook Pro with the M1 Ultra chip claims that it can play back 3 streams of 8K video without stuttering in real time. So I haven't tried that yet. Just really got the MacBook Pro about 2 weeks ago, and I don't really shoot too much 8K video. I find it takes up a lot of hard drive space, and I'm usually delivering in HD anyway, so shooting in 4K is good enough for me. And the M1 architecture on these new Macs play the 4K video just fine, especially if you're using the fast transfer speeds that these SD drives deliver. If you are still working with some of their old hard drives, whether it's USB 3 or external drives that are maybe even only 5400 rotation speeds. You might run into some problems. You might run into some stuttering, but get yourself hooked up with some of these, and you'll be fine editing, as we say, or as they say, even 8K video without investing in a RAID array. So that was the main reason why I decided to give it a try. Is the real-time video editing of the modern video codecs. I've always been happy on the PC and been a big promoter of the PC. But that was back when the PC platform edited my video fine in real time. First HD and then 4K. I work with a kind of a boutique software system called Edius Pro. Those of you who have been following this channel will know that I've been a big promoter of Edius. It's a fast and easy program to learn. It has most of the features that you'd ever want in a video editor, and I found it very easy to teach it, and my students found it very easy to learn, and it just was able to, through the years, I used it for probably the last 16 years or so. Through the years, I always kind of kept up to the latest codecs and was able to perform and use my video in real time. And so that's what I was promoting. It was always kind of a little ahead of the game of most of the other video editing software in terms of real time. And so that was my reason for being a big promoter of Edius Pro. But then within the last couple of years, I started to find that the video that I was bringing in from some of my devices and some of my new cameras were having trouble. And to be fair to Edius, the Grass Valley system, they are somewhat constrained, I believe, by the hardware platform that they are built upon, the PC platform. For whatever reason, Intel and the graphics cards just have not been able to deliver real time for some of these new video codecs. And so I began to get frustrated with that. And as I began to hear about the M1 architecture on the Apple products, I started thinking about making the switch. But I didn't want to leave behind Edius, because I know that Edius has not been ported over to the Macs. So I thought maybe they are planning on it. And so I got on the Grass Valley forum and asked the question, is Grass Valley planning to port Edius over to the Mac to take advantage of all of the wonderful features of the M1 architecture that are now on the Macs? And I got a resounding no. We will never go over to the Mac. And so that's kind of what tipped me over the scales to make that first trial by getting one of these iMac 24s. And the first week or so, found it a little bit frustrating making the transition to the new operating system and working out the keyboard shortcuts for everything. But after about a week or so using it, everything kind of became natural. And now when I go back to the PC, I find myself using the Mac keyboard shortcuts on the PC keyboard. And so if that's the reason why you might be thinking or hesitating to make the switch, is the whole new operating environment that you have to switch to, don't let that be what stops you from making the transition to a Mac. You'll pick that up in no time. Do I have any other regrets? Did I have any other issues as I was making the transition? Well, yeah, I'd like to talk about a few things. First of all, when I opened the Mac and I took a look at this mouse, I said, what kind of a mouse is this? It seems to only have one click. And I use the right click, left click a lot. And I have a scroller on my mouse that I use for scrolling through software and when I'm surfing the internet. I like to be able to scroll, and this doesn't have a scroller. What kind of a deal is this? And so I actually gave my mouse away. That shows you how naive I was about Apple products, because all you have to do is make a few changes in the settings, and it actually does do a right click, a left click, and a beautiful scroll. They call it a magic mouse. And I think it's because you can scroll even though there isn't a wheel there. And it's lovely design and shape. And I found that I really loved it. The reason why I found out, I should tell you this, is because after I found out about how great this was for editing video, I bought a second one for my wife. She has a YouTube channel. She's a YouTube creator, English language trainer. And so I got her set up, and I didn't throw her mouse away or give it away. And as I started using her system, showing her a few things and Googling a few things, I found out that the mouse is very capable and beautiful and nice to work with. So I ended up buying another one for my iMac 24 that I gave the mouse away on. So if you do make the switch and you open up the box and you look at this mouse, don't give it away or throw it away, or order that $120 Logitech mouse. You don't need to. This really is a very wonderful mouse. The keyboard at first might throw you off. It looks small and I don't know, just compared to the big keyboard that I was used to using, it just seemed like, can I ever get used to that? Will the keys even be spaced out properly? But again, it only took about a week to become used to this. I like the thumbprint key there for turning things on and purchasing things. It's very handy, and it's nice and clean on the table. You know, I don't like clutter, and this is these two things. And again, I have to come back to this, to have the computer built into the screen itself, and not have to have a big beast down underneath my table that runs everything. Just to have these three items on the desktop and be able to edit videos is just amazing. Of course, you have to have hard drives and a second monitor. So it does start to build up clutter after a while, but the original package is just so sweet and beautiful and capable, fast and efficient, and no longer an extra $2,000 for the beautiful logo, right? As I said, this $2,000, and that's Canadian. It's probably cheaper elsewhere. If you're thinking in terms of USD, probably more like $1,500 to get into a base level. Compared to my $7,000 Beast. This outperforms the $7,000 Beast. And so it's no longer paying an extra $2,000 for the pretty logo. So you can take that off the table as to the reason why you don't make the switch. I might say that if you start, let me put it this way. If you are purchasing or switching to the Mac primarily for video editing, I would recommend that you make sure that you get an iMac 24, if that's the route you want to go, that has the at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. When I went to make the test run of this to see what it was like, the stores in my part of Canada only had the 8 gigabyte machines, and so that's all I could get. And I really regret that, because you cannot add memory later. If you're a PC person, you're always thinking, well, I can always add more memory later, right? If I need it. Not so with these units. It's all solid state built in. You can't change it later. And so whatever memory you think that you need to run your applications, make sure that you get it when you purchase it. I was able to run my video editing software. By the way, I went with DaVinci Resolve. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. I was able to run it even on the 8 gig machines. And I checked into that before I made the purchase, that people on the internet were saying that, yes, you can do video editing even with just an 8 gig machine, and it is possible. I've edited, actually, over the last 9 months, I have edited a lot of videos with this. But I did find that it could bog down on me. DaVinci Resolve takes up that 8 gigabytes pretty quickly and easily, especially if you have a lot of media into the project. And I found that I couldn't run any other program while I was doing the video editing. So if you're the type of editor that likes to have Photoshop open, maybe some internet websites open, Shutterstock and some of these other stock media places, I like to have them open, maybe like to have After Effects open at the same time I'm working with my video editor. Just found that I couldn't even have Outlook open at the same time that I was trying to edit. Just had to have DaVinci Resolve alone. And so that became a little bit frustrating after a while. Make sure that if you're a video editor, at least a serious video editor, you're editing a lot on it every day, that you'll want to make sure that you get the 16 gigabyte version of this. Now, if you are just the hobbyist, you might edit the odd video for YouTube, you'll be fine with even the 8 gig if that's the only thing that you can find. And with the chip shortages and the supply chain issues that we're having because of the pandemic, a lot of times that's all you can find these days. When I went to order the MacBook Pro, I think I placed the order in February. I didn't get it till June. I just got it a few days ago. And it's because of this issue of being back ordered. But I would recommend put your order in for the RAM that you need and just wait. You'll find that you'll be thanking me for that little tip. If you ended up getting one of these 8 gigs like I did, you're going to run into some problems. All right. What about a second monitor? When I'm doing video editing, at least I almost have to have 2 monitors. I can't tell you how many times I've been traveling and have to edit a project while I'm out in the field, and I just find I have to buy a second monitor. I don't know how many monitors I've bought over the years and just had to leave them behind wherever I was traveling. And so my clients all over the world have gotten this extra monitor when I leave after 2 weeks, because I just can't do the editing that I need to do on one monitor, at least not very easily. And so you might be wondering, well, okay, so you got this beautiful Mac, but if you don't have the box that has the plug for your second monitor, how do you plug in a second monitor? Well, these days you can find 4K monitors, and that's what you'll want. Don't ever try and hook up a 2K monitor or a HD monitor as your second monitor. Some software on the Mac might handle that, and you can make adjustments in the settings so that you're telling it that it's an HD monitor. But I find if as a second screen for working with video editors, most video editors, at least that I've tried, won't work having one screen at, in this case, 5K, and a second screen where you're going to get your media from the bins at a different resolution. The software just, it's going to say, I want both monitors to be the same resolution. And so you're going to want a 4K monitor to start with. But you can find 4K monitors these days that just have the USB-C connector. And you'll notice at the back here, there's 4 of them. 2 are Thunderbolt, which are faster, but the other 2 are USB-C. And that's all you really need is a cable from one of these coming out of here and go over to just be able to plug it in with a USB-C cable into your second monitor. If you already have a 4K monitor that doesn't have the USB-C in, it's just a matter of picking up an adapter, something like this. You see it has USB-C. I think you can get some these days. I got this a year ago. You can get some these days that are actually Thunderbolt out, and that'll give you a little bit better capabilities, I believe, if you can get the Thunderbolt out. But then you have all sorts of other things. Just check out Amazon for these types of adapters, and you'll have a variety of options that you can choose from as to the different outlets that it will have coming off this USB-C or Thunderbolt connection. And in this case, this one has a HDMI out. So USB-C to HDMI, and then to an HDMI monitor. Now, the MacBook Pro itself actually has an HDMI out, and so using that and one of these, I can hook up a 3-monitor system with that, and that's very sweet. All right, any other regrets or cautions or concerns? Okay, let's talk about the video editor itself. I, as I say, have been a big fan and promoter of Grass Valley Edius Pro. And the reason why I liked it, first of all, was because of the real-time performance it has had typically over the last 15 years or so, 14 or 15 years. I always seemed to keep up with real-time performance and was usually better than most everything else out there. And that's what I'm most interested in, is real-time editing. But the last couple of years, it's kind of fallen behind. And I have to kind of say it's probably not Edius's fault. It's not the fault of Grass Valley. It's the platform that they've been built on, the PC platform, that's causing the inability to play the latest codecs. And so I started looking around. I think, as I mentioned, I checked with Grass Valley to see if they might be porting theirs over to the Mac. And when they said no, I had some second thoughts, because it's hard to say goodbye to an old friend and something that you have been promoting so strongly over the years. But when it comes right down to it, I'm a fanboy primarily because of the real time. And if the real time goes away, then I have to switch to something that does have the real time. And it could be that Intel's now catching up. Here it is a year later. Maybe everything is fine. But, once you've made the switch, it's hard to go back. There's no going back, really. It's just such a beautiful system. And you kind of look back and say, yeah, even if they do catch up and everything is in real time now on the Intel, or will be soon, it's just kind of a little... too little, too late, let's say. Too little, too late. I've been building PCs now for probably 30 years, and it hasn't changed. You get the big metal box, you put in the motherboard, you put in the latest processor, the fastest processor for video editing, you need that, and then you spend another couple of $1,000 on a video card. You put in as much memory as possible. You get some fast hard drives. And it's the same architecture for the last 30 years. There's been no innovation. It's that same big, heavy box. And kudos to Apple for designing this screen that has all of that processing power built right into the screen. I have to say, I have to honor a company that is that innovative and has given me that kind of power on a beautiful form factor like this screen, or even faster form and smaller form factor on the new Macs. And of course, we could always talk about the iMac Studio as well, the little beautiful box. I haven't gotten one of those yet, but I've seen them, and they're amazing as well. So too little, too late. Even if they do catch up, there's no going back. I'm now a Mac guy, and will probably be a Mac guy for the rest of my life. In closing, I might just say a little bit about the video editing software situation. If you've been following this channel, you may have been one of those students that learned Edius along with me. And you might be wondering why it is all of a sudden that I am recommending something else. It's hard for me to say anything negative about Edius Pro. It's been such a wonderful friend, a wonderful workhorse for me for the last 15 years. I've edited hundreds of projects on the Edius Pro. It was always, almost always, fast, real time, easy to use. I could cut programs on Edius faster than many of the other video editing solutions that were out there. At least that was my feeling. And so it was hard to think about making the switch. I was so sad that they have decided not to port their wonderful product over to the Mac. But it was more important for me to have real time. And the last couple of years, at least the last year, as I start to work with some of the new codecs coming from new cameras or my GoPro, my drone, my phone, I just became very frustrated with the lack of real time. And so made the switch. But what am I going to use now? Of course, I could use Premiere Pro. I have the Adobe Suite. Wouldn't cost me anything more to use that because I'm already paying for it every month anyways. But I'd heard a lot of good things about DaVinci Resolve by Blackmagic. And so I thought I'd give that a try. The software is basically free. I mean, there's a free version that has about 90% of the features as the paid version. And so it's easy to try out. So I downloaded that, worked with it for a couple of weeks, and then just decided to get the full program. It only costs about $350 to get the full version, the studio version, and that gave me access to all the features. And I found it to be actually very much more capable than Edius. I don't like to say that. I don't like to say anything bad about Edius, but this DaVinci Resolve at $350 is a much more capable editor. I can edit faster than I used to be able to on the Edius. And it has a wonderful color correction or color grading feature to it that far surpasses the capability of Edius. I kind of found the last couple of releases of Edius didn't add much. They added some third-party plugins, but that was about it. There wasn't a lot of native changes to it. Some things stopped working, like the consolidate feature of the project. I always like to consolidate my projects after I was finished. That stopped working, and those things kind of leave a sour taste in your mouth after a while. Resolve has a wonderful archiving solutions, consolidate solutions, as well as so many other wonderful things. It has features built in that kind of replace some of the things I used to have to go out and do in After Effects. Now I can just do them right in DaVinci Resolve. In conclusion, my decision to go from a PC to a Mac, from Edius Pro to DaVinci Resolve, has been a very positive one. DaVinci Resolve is actually very easy to pick up. I was able to just use basically the same keyboard shortcuts and set up the environment very much like Edius Pro, so I hardly noticed the switch. I set it up for my wife. You know, she's been editing on Edius for the last 3 or 4 years for her YouTube channel, and I set up her DaVinci Resolve in the same way, with the same environment, same keyboard shortcuts, and she hardly notices that any change has happened. So don't worry about the learning curve that you might have to do if you make that switch. Don't let that be what stops you from considering switching to the Mac. I'm so excited about DaVinci Resolve, I'll probably make a few lessons on it. Maybe what I'll do is something like I did with Edius, do a project, kind of a workshop where we go through a real-life project that I'm working on step by step. And at the end of the 10-lesson workshop, you will know all of the quirks about DaVinci Resolve. There's not too many, but I can probably save you some time. Just showing you some of the things that might be a little bit different than Edius or Final Cut or Premiere Pro. and a little bit unique about the software itself. And then the rest is just you can port everything over, use the same keyboard shortcuts, and just edit like you normally do. There's a lot of tutorials on DaVinci Resolve out there. I found if I ever ran into a problem, I just had to Google my question, and there's 2 or 3 videos answering that specific question. And you could do that too, or you could check out the workshop that I'll do. I find that people like my workshops, especially those who might be starting DaVinci for the first time or video editing for the first time. Because often the other educators out there will make a lot of assumptions about what you should already know. Whereas I like to take people from scratch, take it step by step from the beginning. And people appreciate that. We go slow. We show you everything that you need to know in order to finish a project and export it out to your clients. All right, well, we have gone really long. I'm just so excited about making this switch. I wanted to share my enthusiasm with you. And hopefully, if you are in the valley of decision, been able to answer some of your questions. If you have some that I didn't talk about, some worries or concerns about making the switch, just let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to share some thoughts about what maybe didn't cover in this video. All right. So long for now. We'll catch you down the road.